Hello and welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's video I'm going to be showing you 3 CSS hover effects that are going to improve all of your designs. They're some of the most popular and used hover effects across the web, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's jump in. Okay, so here we are in Sublime Text. Obviously use whatever text editor you want, I just like Sublime. And in today's video I'm not actually going to be coding all of the HTML, I'm just going to be showing you how to do these actual effects just quicker, and I really just want to show you how to do them, to be honest, okay? But there is a link in the description with all of these project files, okay? It's going to start off you exactly where this tutorial starts, and you can just follow along, okay? So again, link in the description if you want to follow along with me. HTML again is pretty easy, just with a card, it's just your standard card. We've got a wrap, a name, and then the content, which I've used the image, and then Navbar is really simple. It's just got a wrap and some A tags for the actual nav elements, okay? So I go back to the actual design, the finished product. We have this kind of hover over effect.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Looks really cool, really simple. Obviously you can use this for anything. You could use it for drop down menus, literally anything. I just made this thing with a meme, so I thought it'd be funny, to be honest. And the next thing is, you probably seen more likely on the majority of websites you've been on, this is kind of line effects that when you hover over the nav elements, this line kind of grows underneath, kind of like an underline, but it grows as you hover over it and then shrinks. Really cool looking, very, very simple. I didn't even know how to do this for ages when I started web development, but it's super, super simple. And then finally we have a button effects, which basically just has this slide across effect. Looks really cool, background just slides across the other. Really, really simple again. Okay, so let's jump straight into it. Okay, so starting off with a card, let's do this kind of effect. We're going to do this, okay? So first we're just going to add to the card content a margin top -2 pixels, which is just going to be used for spacing. So if you look, it's -2 pixels. If you look at the finished design, everything's kind of tucked neatly underneath this name element, okay? And that's what we want to achieve. And the -2 pixels just helps that. And then we're going to add transition quick of 0.5 seconds. I'm going to ease this out. Okay. We will be using overflow as well in a minute, but first I'm going to show you why we need to use overflow and why it's important, because I want you guys to understand that, because this really helps you understand how this works. Okay, so under here, adds a bit of space, and we'll do .card hover, an arrow, which basically just means target a child under the parent, okay? So the way I've set out this code, if I show you quick. If you go back to HTML, in the actual card, we have this div that contains all of this code here. So this is the parent, anything in between that is the children. So as in the final design, we want to basically target the card, and when we hover over it, the card element is going to pop up, okay? And that's how we do this with this arrow here. It allows you to hover over one thing and target another element as you go. So all we got to do here is just change the height to 250 pixels. And if we scroll back up to the card content and change the height here to 0, it basically just grows, okay? The problem we have here is if we open it, obviously you can still see the contents even though the actual card's closed, which is not what we want. And this is why you use overflow, okay? Overflow basically does exactly what it says. If you set overflow to hidden, it hides anything within that div, okay? So as you hover over it, it kind of sticks to it. So as long as that's not visible, you can't see what's in the actual div. And that's how we achieve that kind of open, like drawer kind of look, okay? So understand overflow properly and you can do a lot with it. So there we go, that's first element done. Really simple, really easy to do. Hopefully you can do a lot of creative things with it. So next is the navbar. With the navbar, if I go to the finished product quick, to achieve this line, it's so simple. We basically just use a pseudo element called after. If you don't know what before and after is, I highly recommend you look it up, because you can do so many powerful things with it once you understand how to use it. I myself am actually be making a tutorial next week on how to use them for, like, as a beginner video, from knowing nothing about them, how to use them and why you should use them. So keep your eyes out for that next week. But for now, if you don't know anything about it, go look up yourself because I highly recommend it. Okay, so if we go straight into the navbar, and again, if you're following with me, I've actually sectioned this all off nicely so you can easily tell what's what. Just make it a bit easier on you guys without getting lost through all this code. Okay, so we're going to target the A tags. It's going to be 2 dots and after. That is how you write the pseudo element, okay? If you don't know what the hell the A tags are or what I'm on about, go back to the HTML, click the little arrow here and open up the navbar. And all we have are, to have the actual nav elements here, the home, about and services, these bits, we just have them as A tags, okay? That's why we're targeting all these A tags, because then we can target them all at once rather than doing one by one, which is just no point in this pointless code, okay? So I have a display block. Actually, on line, we're going to have content. We have to have a content whenever using before or after, okay? Because without having actual content in the before or after, nothing will display, okay? At all. I won't go too in depth with it right now because it's a bit beyond the scope of this video, so just look up yourself. But just know for now, you have to have content. And then we're going to have a position of absolute, because we're going to be moving this around and positioning it in a different way, okay? And we're going to have a height of 2 pixels. If I go right, 2 pixels. We're going to have a width of 100%. And after that, we're going to have a background of white. We're going to have a bottom 0. We're going to have a left of 0, which basically is going to center the actual line. See, you can see there. And we're just going to have a top. The top, what I'm actually putting now is entirely up to preference. I just like the line to be a bit lower. This is like dead underneath it, as in like no padding, no margin, no nothing, okay? So I just like adding a top of 28 pixels to just make it a little bit lower. Again, it's up to you. But you see it just drops down a tiny bit, which I like. And then we're just going to have a transition of transform, because we're going to be transforming the scale in just a second. Really can't write today. Transform. We're going to ease it out, and for 300 milliseconds, okay? Alright, and then to achieve the effects we actually want, we're going to be transforming the scale, okay? And we're going to transform it 0 dash, not dot, dash 1. And I explain why we're using a 0 dash 1, not just a 1, okay? I'll explain that in just a second. Let me just set up the rest. So obviously the actual hover effect, the way we're going to do this, target the A tag again, hover, and then dot dot after, okay? It's very important that the hover comes before the after, because we're hovering, we're basically activating the after code here by targeting the after, okay? So the hover is actually over the after, not just the A, okay? It's a bit confusing, but you'll see how it works in a second. So transform once again, and we'll change the scale from 0 dash 1 to 1 dash 1, okay? If I save it, you see how it kind of just changed there? We already have achieved that hover effect. I mean, how simple is that? So going back to why we have the 0 dash 1, this is actually for how the scale itself works. So the first number in the scale is the x-axis and the 1 is the y, okay? And if you have no idea what the x or y-axis is, x is what goes left and right, and y-axis is up and down, okay? I mean, you're probably thinking, what the hell, Dan? That makes no sense, seeing that it's just going left and right. But what we're doing here is we're saying the x starts off at 0 and the y starts off 100%, okay? And then we're changing the x from 0 to 1, which is 100%, and keeping the y at 100%, which is highly, highly confusing. But what this basically does is, as it opens, the y is already the length it's meant to be, okay? So it's just going to grow from the x-axis, it's just going to grow from the center rather than from the side. So if I set this to 1, you immediately see the difference, okay? Set this to 1 and set this to 0. You see how different the effect looks. You see how that kind of fades? I mean, you might want that, to be honest, it's up to you, but see kind of how it disappears and like fades away before it's even fully closed off, that's because of the Y is 0 as well. Okay, so it's not just shrinking down scale on the x-axis, it's shrinking down scale on the y-axis as well, which is why you get kind of this ghosty, like opacity type of look. Okay, so 0-1, 1 basically means 100% on the y scale, and then 1-1, so it's 100% on both scales, which gives this kind of just zoom away look. See, nothing disappears, it just kind of slowly merges into nothing. Okay, so onto the button. If you look at the final design, the background color goes left to right. Really cool effect, and it's actually really simple. We do it by using the pseudo element after once again. This is why I highly recommend you to use the before and after pseudo elements. If you learn how to use them and understand when, it really helps improve your design and like user experience. Okay, it's a bit more interactive. So we do button dot after, and we have that content in there because obviously without it we can't see what's actually going on. We're going to have a position of absolute because we're going to be moving it how we want it, a width of 100% and a height of 100%. We're doing this because we need the background color to be 100% over the width and the height of the button. Okay, so if you look at the final design, it's fully in front of it. Okay, that's what we need to do. Okay, and to center it properly on it, we have a top of 0 and a left of 0. That's what's basically going to place it directly on top of the button element. And we have a background of E1 5353. And that's going to have the red. But if you look, it's actually in front of everything, which is not how we want it. We want it behind the text like in the finished version. Okay, and we achieved this by using something called the z-index. Okay, we have a -1, and what z-index does is it basically helps you move elements in front or behind other elements. So you think of like a card. If we want one element to be in front of the other element, we have to use z-index to kind of reshuffle where we want each element to be. And if we go back to the button and set a z-index here of 1, see, it's going to be behind the text but in front of the bottom of the button design. Okay, or the button element. It's kind of confusing, I know, but if you use it a bit, you'll kind of understand what I mean. Okay, so the lower the number, it's behind the higher numbers. Okay, so -1 is behind 1. -1 is behind 1. I'm confusing myself. Okay, so -1 is behind 1. Okay, so the lower the number, it means it's going to be kill me. If I butchered the explanation, just go W3 Schools and just have a little read. It's not that complicated once you kind of get your head around it. Okay, so the next thing we use is a thing called transform origin. Okay, and what this does is basically allow us to put the origin where we want. So I can put left and then change it from 100% to 50%. You see? It allows us to have it come from a certain direction. And that's how we're going to achieve that kind of slide effect, right? So we'll change it back to 100%. And we change this to right. This will make sense in a minute. And then we do a hover effect, so button, hover, and then after, remember, just like we did a minute ago. And then we're going to transform the scale X again, to 1. We change the old scale to 0. And we're going to change the transform origin to left, which gives that kind of slide effect. Okay, so if we add a transition of, let's say 200 milliseconds, actually, you know what, we'll say 300 milliseconds, and we ease it in. Now we hover over it, we're going to have that effect, you see? Kind of comes from the right and slides off to the left. I think in the original design we did it from the left to the right, but it doesn't really matter. You can obviously switch up how you want. If I change this to the left and this one to the right, it'd be in reverse. See what I mean? So how it was in the finished product. And obviously you can do this with the Y. If I show that quickly, if we change this from X to Y, and we say from left, we say bottom, and we say this one top. See, there you go, from the top to the bottom. So you can really do some really creative things. Obviously you don't have to just do that, you can make it kind of grow from the middle. Just play with the transform origin property and the scale. If you, instead of scaling from the X or the Y, you just scale from both, it kind of expand, which would be a pretty cool effect. Okay, so that's the end of the video. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I hope you actually learned something from all these effects, and I hope you make some really creative things from what you learned. So please, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.